Hello, my little hellhounds, and welcome to Home of Scares. If you like paranormal or creepy let's not meet stories, then this is the channel for you. Don't forget to like it and subscribe. Creepy guy who tried to take me into the woods on a scouting trip. Submitted by Saders 27. I was about 12 years old at the time and a member of a unisex scouts group, one of about 4 girls in our troop. We went to a jamboree with loads of other scout groups and camped there for a few nights. During the day we did a range of activities, a lot of which were based in a wooded area very close to the area we were camping in. Every night there was some sort of entertainment for us to go to if we wanted to. On the first night, the other girls and I started talking to a group of older guys who were also camping with their troop for a few days. They were pretty nerdy and we weren't particularly attracted to them, but they seemed nice and we had a good laugh with them. Whenever we saw them for the next couple of days, we would say hi and chat when we could. It was nice to talk to some other boys than the ones in our group. The boys in our troop were older than me and we were pretty protective of us girls. They made sure these other boys knew they were with us and we felt pretty safe being at a scout event with the older boys watching over us. The night before we left, we had a disco. Everyone got dressed up and we went along to dance and to listen to the music. By this point, we had got to know the boys pretty well, or as well as we could have in a couple of days. At the disco, a couple of the boys asked if we wanted to go for a walk in view of the disco and just hang out away from the scout leaders. As it was our last night, me and another girl went off with them, but we weren't far from the disco and could hear and see everything that was going on. After a while, my friend needed the bathroom, so headed back towards the disco tent. I stayed where I was and kept hanging out with these boys. Big mistake. Looking back, I should have gone with her. How well did I really know these boys, but at 12 years old I was pretty naive and didn't think anything bad would happen. They suggested we head back, but take a slightly longer route round so we could see the stars. Still within full view of the disco, suddenly one of the boys held my hand. I felt super uncomfortable, but was really shy back then and didn't know what to do. I saw him shine a light on our hands and wink at his mates, who very quickly disappeared. Now it was just me and him. I was even more uncomfortable. He proceeded to tell me he was really into me, even though he was 2 or 3 years older and wanted to finish the trip on a high. He started to lead me towards the woods and further away from everyone else. I was inwardly panicking, freaking out and not knowing what to say or do. I was in shock and frightened. I tried to pull my hand away, but he held it tighter. He stared forwards and kept telling me how beautiful I was and how he couldn't wait to have some alone time. At 12 years old, this is the last thing I wanted. I really felt that if I went with him, it wouldn't end well, but I was too scared to do anything. I didn't feel I could get away even if I tried. Then he started to sing along to a song from the disco, which was becoming fainter and fainter. Is this the way to Amarillo? I was terrified. I couldn't see any way out. In the midst of my panic, I suddenly heard something that filled me with utter relief. The boys from my troop were calling me and walking towards us. He let go of my hand. As soon as I felt him let go, I ran to the boys I knew, and they took me back to our camp. The next day we were leaving, and I was so relieved. We were waiting to get on the minibus home when I heard his voice behind me. He told me he had a great night, and it was a shame we got interrupted. He asked for my number. This was before cell phones, so he wanted my home number. One of the boys in my group answered for me, told him no, and it was best he left me alone. I'm 27 now, but still cannot listen to that song. If I hear it, my body is filled with dread, and I feel sick. Thankfully, I never saw him again, and I hope I never do. To the creepy guy who tried to lead me into the woods in the middle of the night, let's never meet again. a strange man in the woods. Submitted by Obi-Wan 420. I live in a small town in South Africa. Near my town there is a large patch of woods, and since the outbreak of coronavirus, I haven't been in the woods for a long time, until yesterday. So my friend called me to ask if I wanted to join him and a few other mates to play a game of paintball in the woods, and obviously I was keen. I got my paintball gear and gun and headed off to my mate's place. There was 6 of us: Chase, Liam, Matt, Joey, Stephen, and obviously me. We headed off to the woods, but made a few stops to fill up on petrol and get some gas for the paintball guns. When we finally got to the woods, we parked the cars, got in our gear and ventured out into the forest to find the perfect spot to paintball. Eventually we got deep enough and to an area with sufficient cover and space to play a good game of capture the flag. We played a couple of games, and since it's winter, it got dark really quickly, but we planned for this and brought our flashlights and decided to play a couple of night games, which is extremely hard, especially in the forest we were in. During one match, Joey and I decided to sit out because we were both tired and just needed a quick breather, and the others continued to play from a significantly good distance away from us. While we were chilling, I was rolling up a joint. Yes, I'm a pothead. And Joey went to go take a piss a couple of meters away from me. While I was busy rolling, I had the flashlight pointing towards myself, since there was no other light to allow me to see what I was doing, and around me it was completely dark. I couldn't even see 2 meters ahead of myself because of how dark it was. Suddenly I heard footsteps coming my way, but I thought it was Joey, and I soon realized I couldn't see any light from his flashlight. So now I was more vigilant, but still relaxed, thinking he is trying to play a prank on me or something. But the footsteps stopped a few meters away from me. So I lifted my flashlight up and pointed it in the direction where I heard the footsteps, and scanned the area, but just saw bushes and trees, and I just thought it might be Joey hiding in the bushes or behind a tree, waiting to give me a jump scare. When I heard footsteps coming in the opposite direction, and when I looked, I could see it was Joey, because he was holding his flashlight. That's when I stopped what I was doing and picked up my flashlight and paintball gun, and when Joey reached me, I whispered, "Bro, I think there is someone over there." And Joey obviously didn't believe me and just said to me to stop being a baby. But he soon regretted saying that, because I decided to do one last scan of where I heard the footsteps, and to my horror I saw someone peeking and staring right at me from behind a tree, probably 10 or 11 meters away from us. I just shouted, "What the actual fuck?" And when Joey heard me say this, he looked at me, and then where the man looked, and instantly jumped up, picking up his paintball gun. We stared at the tree for at least 2 minutes, but it felt like forever until he stepped out from behind the tree. He was a large man, at least 6 foot, was honestly filthy, like he hasn't taken a bath in years. He was wearing baggy, ripped up jeans and just an old, dirty, zipped up bomber jacket. Plus, we could see that he was on something, or he was just bat shit crazy, and he was holding something behind his back. He finally said, "What are you guys doing out here when it is so dark?" We couldn't even answer him because of the shock we were in. Joey stuttered with fear in his voice. We were just leaving, but the man nodded his head in disagreement and said, "No, you're not. Your friends are still playing the game." I felt a shiver down my spine. How about we play a game of our own while we wait for your friends? And that is when he finally showed us what he was hiding behind his back, and it was a large machete. That's when I knew we had to get out of there. So I aimed my paintball gun, and in the toughest way I could muster up, I told him, "Leave now, or I will shoot," even though I only had about 6 or 7 paintballs loaded. And Joey did the exact same thing by aiming his gun at the man, even though he had no paintballs in his gun. But he didn't even flinch, but did something that honestly made my skin crawl. He just smiled and said, "The game starts now," and suddenly he just rushed at us. So I told Joey to run while I fired my last bullet at him, and luckily I shot him in his head, which caused him to fall. So that was our chance to book it and link up with our other friends. As soon as we started running, we heard his footsteps again, and he was actually gaining on us. We could barely see, but we couldn't slow down because we knew what would happen if we did. So we just carried on sprinting, our hearts out, until we heard the other paintball guns being fired. So we knew we were close, Joey started shouting to get everyone's attention, and all of a sudden I heard a huge thud. Joey tripped and twisted his ankle. I turned around to help him up, and when I did, I could see the man running full sprint towards us. In that moment, I thought it was going to be the end for us. But our friends heard our screams for help and rushed to us, and when they saw the man, they just started firing at him, and he knew he wasn't going to be able to take us all on, and he decided to turn around and disappear into the forest. We helped Joey up, rushed to get our stuff, and rushed to the cars. When we got to our friend's place, we helped Joey treat his ankle, and I proceeded to tell my friends everything that happened, and they were all creeped out. It's safe to say that the next time I'm in those woods, I will be more vigilant. Chased through the woods by a man with a crossbow, submitted by rats in corduroy. This happened a few years ago with my friend June, when we were maybe 17 or 18. I'm now 23. We were out driving around late at night on country back roads. We were teenagers growing up in a rural area, so going for a drive was one of the main ways we passed the time. We were both into goth stuff and witchcraft at the time, so we pulled off the side of the road to walk around a small graveyard in the woods. It was impossible to see at night, but we'd gone there a few times in the day before, just to hang out. The whole area is heavily forested, but the path to the graveyard is short. It's right next to the road, just barely hidden in the woods. Anyway, we started slowly on the small loop that takes you around all the gravestones, using our flashlight to read the names and look at the carvings on the stones. I was very comforted by graveyards and the night at the time, so I was honestly very relaxed, and we mused about ghosts and deaths and whatnot, as goth teenagers do. About halfway around the loop, at the furthest point from the car, June got my attention, and she noticed a light in the woods. It looked far away, like it could have been a car on the road, so we turned away and kept walking. However, about 30 seconds later, she got my attention again, and the light was much closer and obviously quickly moving towards us. And then I heard the sound of someone crashing through the woods. It was obviously someone with a flashlight making a beeline towards us, and we backtracked and ran to the car. I unlocked it and climbed into the driver's seat, turning the car on as fast as I could. And right before the lights came on, this huge, grisly looking man, dressed head to toe in camouflage, carrying a huge crossbow and wearing a headlamp, busted out of the foliage and was coming right for the car. He has this maniac look in his eyes, and that just made me want to escape even more. I reversed as quickly as I could and peeled out of there. We didn't stop driving for a while, even though we never saw him following us. After we drove off, we both couldn't shake the feeling that we were being followed. Finally, I think we both got too tired to stay out any longer, and we went back to our houses. But I still constantly think about how quickly he got to us. If we hadn't sprinted right when we did, he would have caught us as we were getting into the car. I literally slammed my door about a second before he came barreling out of the woods towards us. Plus the fact that there are no houses nearby. This person was waiting in the woods in full hunting gear with a weapon, and we clearly weren't animals, as we had a flashlight and there isn't a no trespassing sign in sight. The whole area around this graveyard is state park. I go out into the woods and into weird places in the night a lot, and I've seen some stuff I would consider supernatural that really scared me, but none of those things ever truly made me afraid to go into the woods like he did. I still go out on my own, but I really never let my guard down like I used to. Well, my little hellhounds, I hope you enjoyed tonight's video. If you would like to see more content like this, please subscribe and don't forget to drop a like.